A follow-up, maybe the last chapter, maybe, on Johnson's Pond.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
So we're in the middle of this week when you're focused on national politics finally, right? It's the summer's winding down and the Democratic Convention is happening. You may be thinking, Johnson's Pond. But if you've been a regular viewer of the show over the course of the last many months, you'll know that we've been kind of following this story because it's one of those places that if you don't go there, you're in the majority. But if you know somebody who goes there or who has been affected by what has been an ongoing controversy, you're still in the majority. And it's a chatting point. Everywhere I go when we have covered this story or talked about it, I've had people comment on it. And well, it's a full Rhode Island in a lot of ways, and it incorporates a lot of historic type of institutional Rhode Island government culture and a new solution. And the town solicitor for Coventry is here once again to talk to me about it and talk about what I think he'll probably characterize as a win for his strategy and for the town. So stay tuned, we'll be in that in a second. But I can't ignore the convention headline here. We've got a bunch of them that we should roll, but at least a couple for preliminary chatter. We'll talk more about this next week, but if you don't think that the Obamas stole the show and dominated this convention so far, I should point out, by the way, come on back to me, Eric, because I have to point this out each week. We record the show on Thursdays. So I'm recording the show before the nominee gets to make her speech. We will follow up next week and try to package the entire thing and review the entire convention in its totality. But I will just say that I think the Obamas reset the bar for political speech. And Michelle Obama edged out her husband, no doubt, in terms of performance. Now, if you're just rolling your eyes over the idea that politics shouldn't be performance art, it is in very many ways. And this momentum thing obviously is enhanced by what the Obamas did on Tuesday night. In a way, it's kind of good for Kamala Harris, I think, to have a day between. Although Tim Walz, as we see in this headline, I think did what he needed to do in terms of a very fast, quick, hit him hard speech that his son stole in many ways, I think, which to me appeared like authentic tears of not only joy, but exasperation over, that's my dad. And if that, father-daughter, mother-son, relationships all are special. But the relationship between the son and his father has its own uniqueness. And I was a mess, watching him a mess, while his father was performing like the high school coach. And, that kind of sentiment can go a long way, I think, in affecting this election. We'll talk about whether that bump that normally comes from a convention actually occurs. We'll get data and polling information next week that will show. But with a average polling gap right now, it seems, of 3% to Kamala Harris's benefit, that kind of stuff may not be game, set, match, because there's a long final stretch to go in a debate on September 10th. But it adds up. There's no doubt about it. Anyway, interesting times, don't you think? 6 weeks ago, you wouldn't even think we would be in this kind of a conversation. So we will definitely follow up full scale next week on that. All right. So here's a headline on the conversation. And, this is compelling stuff. I mean, this is court precedent type of stuff with a case that is kind of unprecedented. Let me run this news story here, which is dated, I apologize, it's a late June package. There have been many twists and turns in the story, but at least it elementally gives you some of the basics of what this conversation tonight is all about.
A big day for the town of Coventry after a judge ruled the town could take the pond from social holdings through condemnation.
It's been tedious. It's very tedious.
The town paid $157,000 for the property, but an attorney for social holdings says, quote, although my client's ownership of Johnson's Pond has come to an end, the process of vindication of its right to fair and just compensation is just beginning. But the town says they're ready to fight back.
I'm sure they'll say whatever they want to say, file whatever they want to file, and we'll respond to it.
Right now, water levels are so low, this entire area has become a beach that people can walk on when it used to be underwater. So the town is hopeful that they will make some temporary fixes to the dam in order to get those water levels back up for people to enjoy the pond this summer.
The water's always been dropping. It's terrible.
Andrew Richardson has friends who live along the pond whose boats are now beached. The town will be meeting with DEM next week to see what work they can do to raise water levels, something Richardson says he's grateful for.
Hopefully they'll get it back up. Things get back to normal.
So that is Alex Torres Perez with that coverage, and Stephen Angell, town solicitor, joins me. Welcome. Thanks. Appreciate
having
it.
you.
So that story is kind of mid-stretch in terms of where we have been. We've had a handful of conversations both on radio and television here about how this whole thing is going. Before I get into all of that, I know I asked you and you said nobody cares what I think, but I saw you nodding your head in my periphery. Thoughts on the convention as just an American citizen? You don't need to do your politics.
No, I agreed with your assessment. I thought that the vice presidential candidate's son stole the show.
Did he?
I think so.
Yeah.
It says a lot.
Yeah, it really does. You know, it's one of those things. Forgive me for saying this. The other thought that I had was I was thinking, God, I hope the kid's not a brat. You know what I'm saying? It's like I hope he's not. I hope he's not a showboat by nature. I hope that was really, really real. I don't think you can fake that kind of overflow of stuff. And that's my dad. Was just, even if he is, and I doubt he is, but even if he is, it was a capturing moment. There's no doubt about that.
My understanding is he's a neurodivergent young man.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. Would be very difficult for him to fake his emotions.
Right, and I think that's important to actually, to be honest with you, full disclosure, I didn't do any homework on that this morning, and probably should have. If my guess was that there might be some kind of spectrum issue there that enhances the emotion, which is the beautiful part of kids and everybody who seems to be on the spectrum. Emotions are
real,
raw, and real. So
I identified it and followed it because someone in my family is neurodivergent. So
yeah, well, you know what? Add it to the list because we've got plenty in the Yorke household as well. Actually, in the Yorke, larger umbrella. All right, I digress. Beautiful stuff, no doubt about that. But it is funny, but the human condition and what it does in terms of the politics of the world, isn't it? I mean, you follow the world. It's an important element.
The human condition certainly is, and I think, it makes it difficult even in terms of what we've done in Coventry to parse out the facts from the hyperbole, and the human condition today is fueled by that more so, I think, than ever before.
No doubt, and by the way, not for nothing, the story that you have been integral in is chock full of emotion. This Johnson's Pond story has been chock full of emotion. There have been people who live around that water and who have been, they think, harmed in property value, quality of life, and all of that, who have been very emotional. And the folks who have been running the pond operation and who just lost, I don't know, define it for me, lost what status? Ownership status?
Ownership status.
Didn't help themselves, it seems to me, in terms of decelerating that emotional battle that was going on out there. In other words, there was a lot of antagonism, wasn't there?
Yeah, there sure was. I mean, from our point of view, we want quality of life to improve in that area, and we want, the citizenry of Coventry to enjoy the full benefit of that pond. I mean, that's really what we care about. And that, of course, will address many of the emotions that folks have put on display, I think.
All right, long story made short, let me just package this for a minute. That news story was well put together. Johnson's Pond is long been an asset that citizens can access, live by, but have no ownership in. Former owners were operating the dam for a long period of time, a handful of years ago, sold it to a new entity. That new entity was local. It's called
Social Holdings.
Social Holdings, and one of the socias has been kind of the front and center guy. His lawyer, who has been kind to be here in the past, has explained their perspective on the whole thing. But they bought it for around $1 million package, and the access to the dam and some property. But the water levels were going up and down. The maintenance and the responsibility for taking care of it has been a point of contention. And finally, push comes to shove, and the town that didn't access, ownership in the past has done so through legal strategies that you have brought to the table. Fair enough summary?
That's fair.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about what that outcome really happens to be. It's quite interesting. If you're an eminent domain follower as a concept, you'd be really interested in this conversation. Stay with us.
We were asked to do some work at the dam to clear some of the brush, fill in some of the holes that were there. So we were doing some of that work, and then DEM came out and said that we shouldn't be there.
Okay. Call audible. That's the town manager?
Yes.
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 For whom you work?
No. I work for the Municipal Corporation of Coventry, and I'm hired by the town council.
Gotcha. He's the town manager.
Correct.
Does he have?
He works for them too.
He works for them too. He's on your same page, though, correct?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. And the town government. By the way, what is his name?
Dan Perillo.
Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. We should have had that underneath. Don't want to talk about a guy without naming him. But Mr. Perillo aside, and not specific to him, the town government has had a lot of consternation over this Johnson's Pond story. And, I've given it a hard time in a sense because I thought it was all too quiet during what I thought was an extended period of controversy as to what are you going to do with the social holdings on Johnson's Pond and how you're going to resolve what I thought was just some kind of a needed mediation and buyout. You come in to the situation and both publicly and privately and on a legal front take it in I think a unique direction, which allowed, I think, the elected and appointed folks in Coventry to kind of say, all right, Stephen, let's go, and kind of ride behind your strategy, correct? Long story made short, I've said that twice now, I think, tonight, don't want to be redundant. You thought, you know what? If I can't get a good faith acceptance of a simple offer from the town to take this guy out without necessarily hurting him, but even Stephen maybe, right? We'll just take him from him. And that's what you did. It's bold. Tell me what you did in court.
So on the court date was June 28th, and we had filed our petition to condemn, essentially. It's a condemnation, it's a taking.
It's not eminent domain.
Eminent-ish.
It certainly is. It's in the family
It's
of.
the end process.
Sure.
So we've taken it. We condemned it. We took it. We own it. All right. And we had to demonstrate to the court on that day, which, by the way, is really a one-sided proceeding, unless the owner decides to intervene. And in this case, Social Holdings decided not to intervene. And I would suspect, quite frankly, they really had no grounds to help themselves.
This is you making a presentation. That was just a little flavor. It was a quick bite. But you in front of the town making a presentation about how you're going to go about this, correct?
So we've had a number of presentations. Right after the condemnation in early July, I had asked permission of the council to have a town hall meeting with any resident who wanted to come to the high school auditorium and ask whatever question it was that they wanted about Johnson's Pond, because there was so much we couldn't say before that. And so I just stood there for a couple of hours and took questions from anybody who wanted to ask one.
Okay. Interesting, the politics of this whole thing. And the people who are directly affected obviously have a major league investment in quality of life returned. But you got 30-some-odd thousand people who live in the town of Coventry, all of whom want to be financially prudent about this kind of thing, and who may not have the same both financial, lifestyle, and emotional investment in it. So you had to thread that needle.
Yes.
And you did so by the court process. Tell us what happened.
So, we had to deposit a good faith estimate based on appraisals and, best and highest use of the land that we actually condemned, because there quite a bit of the land we did not take. The downstream portion that's buildable, we left that to him. He can, Social Holdings can build on that. We didn't want it. We only took, we basically, gave them the sirloin and kept the fat. Everything that there's a problem with, we kept, and it's the pond which really.
Do you get a sense that they bought it for the sirloin and not the fat?
No, I think they figured they could monetize the fat by draining the pond and
threatening to do so the
folks.
entire way.
And did.
Yeah. Up and down. Its lawyer would say it was all legitimate based on environmental, weather, all that kind of thing. An argument that so far it seems to just be left out there on the shelf. But you took that piece, and the judge said yes. I mean, you applied to take that piece, and the judge said yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Is there an appeal process coming?
What happens now? First of all, there's no appeal of that decision because they were not a party to that case. They decided not to participate. What happens now, however, really becomes the back and forth in court over what's the value. We went in with an appraisal and other experts to tell us what the value of what we took was. And now they have to counter that by employing their own experts, and I would suspect trying to poke holes in ours. And that's the court process. In the meantime, as I said before to some others, now the difference here is that they're out in the parking lot yelling and screaming about it. And we're on the inside, and we're undertaking to fix the dam as we sit here.
I appreciate the metaphor. Let me offer another one, or at least an explanation of your explanation, and that is, no matter what the value ends up being, no matter what the price the town eventually has to pay to the former owners, they are the former owners.
That's correct.
So you have control of the operation, whether you rolled the dice and it came up wonderfully for you and it's a very modest price that the court adjudicates, or whether the town gets its tail kicked in a little bit and it's millions more than perhaps you would have valued it. You still own the property.
Correct, and that's only, that piece of the litigation by itself is only one phase of the various pieces of litigation that continue. There's still a piece of litigation going on from SOCIA against Coventry with respect to the things that they say we didn't do under the terms of the lease.
Which expired.
Correct. And as of the 28th of June, we, the town of Coventry, stepped into the shoes of Social Holdings with respect to the outstanding compliance order, the NOV, and a Superior Court action that DEM filed against Social Holdings. We've been substituted in as the defendant by agreement. I agreed to that. Because we do intend to repair and do the things that were not done by Social Holdings according to DEM. And we've been very active with them. Myself and my team have been very active with them. In fact, last Friday, they approved our repair plan, and we are awaiting the formal letter with respect to that. We have vetted our dive teams and the appropriate contractors, and we're ready to go as soon as they can to begin work.
Forgive me for this dumb question. What's the water level? Are people on it?
Yeah, they're not happy about the water level. It's a -30 at this point below spillway. That's where that's the number that's
so no
in the
boats,
compliance order. Not to any great effect, and that's
lost summer.
I would suggest, certainly from their point of view, yes, and there's nothing we could do about that. We can only get engineers, and this is not a knock on DEM. They've been very good to work with, but let's face it, they've been burned before. They want to know exactly what we're doing right down to the bucket of masonry that's being used.
But the summer to come in 25, you think will be a whole lot
yeah.
different.
No question.
When we come back, we'll talk about the structure and what that will look like. Stay with us.
Tell me more about the short-term recreation plans. I'm a boater, kayaker, swimmer. Do I have a chance to get my feet in the water or not?
I guess not this summer, but next summer. Eventually, it seems to me the town of Coventry is going to have to form an entity that will manage that, and then maybe there's a fee-based thing going on. We only have a minute or so, Stephen, but tell me what you think that the end application to the general public is going to be about Johnson's Pond.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the town has to transfer it to a municipally owned entity that it controls.
Quasi-government type of thing?
Well, God only knows, they've not had very good luck with fire districts.
No kidding.
Most people don't.
Right.
So the town council does not want to lose control over what goes on there. And that's still in a state of flux. I mean, what we're really concerned about now is repair. That's the key.
Okay.
Get it repaired.
It's got to get repaired, but at some juncture, there will be a user fee format of some kind, not to be determined.
TBD.
Yeah, a busy winter then, I think, probably for not only the legal process but the governmental decisions that have to be made with the input of the public.
Oh, I would assume so. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't control that. I mean, that certainly the council will want their input.
Yeah, I don't want to use slang, but not your job. In other words, not your part of the thing.
It is and it's not. I'm sure I'll be consulted, and my reaction would be, sure, you know, you folks always hear from the public, why not? And they will anyway.
No, but I mean, just there probably will be some kind of, you know, minor investment that people have got to make to maintain this thing and
No
to have
question.
access to it.
There's no question.
But it will be a bigger-than-life recreation center, you think, something that perhaps people never
yes.
really visioned.
No, the council's been very clear. They want an area for boat ramps. They want an area for, you know, beach boat.
A cooler spot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations on threading the needle. Interesting work. Deft legal work, no doubt. And we'll stay in touch with it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll final word when we come back. Stay with us. By the way, shame on me for not doing the homework on young Gus Waltz, but Stephen was there to save the day with an explanation. It only tells me, by the way, that joy was even larger and more authentic than life, and good for him. How it impacts the race, who knows? We'll talk all about it next week and on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRI. Good night.